I'm sorry, I can't remember your last name. Cooksey, Tommy Cooksey from Dragonchain. He's going to be talking about Developer Academy. Since we're starting about 10 or 15 minutes early, we're going to be done around, I guess, 11:45.
Okay, cool.
So you've got the floor and about 50 minutes.
Awesome, thank you.
Have fun.
Okay, so I know some of you have been in here already for some of the earlier lectures, and I will just kind of preface this lecture that this is going to be a little bit different than what you guys have seen already. What we're going to be talking about here is the Dragonchain Academy, which is the educational approach that Dragonchain has to educate people on their platform. So we're going to talk about what we're doing as far as getting people educated, about what our platform does, and then tomorrow we're going to actually give you guys a demo of the platform. We're going to actually give you accounts to get into our platform, and you're going to get to work on our platform. So, but today is all about just how are we getting people educated. So we're not actually talking about, for instance, consensus models or Byzantine General or any of the things that we've seen before. We're really just kind of talking about the academy. So I just want to preface that and just let everybody know that that's what we're doing. So what we're trying to do at the Dragonchain Academy is in essence is to bring open source to education. So that's kind of our goal, and that's kind of what we're going to try to set. So before we get into that, I want to kind of give you some introductions about me and who I am. Again, my name is Tommy Cooksey. I got over 20 years of experience in training and certification. I got started teaching actually in the United States Marine Corps. I was what they call a training NCO for a squadron of about 300 Marines. I was responsible to making sure that they got the training that they needed and they were properly ready to do their jobs. So with that being said, after I got out of the Marine Corps, during my time in the Marine Corps, I should say, I actually got started doing working with a networking program called Banyan Vines, MS-DOS, NT351, Windows for Workgroups, if you guys remember that long ago. So what that means is that I got started early on in some of the IT certification programs, right? So if you guys remember those certifications programs, they were kind of like cash your own check when you got those certifications. You could really kind of add zeros to your paycheck. So what I think that has done is it's created an industry that's people are just simply trying to get certified, right? They're just simply trying to get paper certifications, and those certifications really don't mean anything. And so what our goal is to create a certification system that allows you to not only have a skill set, but also a brand and a reputation that ties to that tracked on a blockchain solution. And so that's kind of what we're building in the Dragonchain Academy. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how that works and kind of what our plan is moving forward with that. So again, I kind of talk about some of the certifications, a little bit more about my background. I've been teaching PeopleSoft predominantly for like the last 20 years, and if you know much about PeopleSoft, it touches a lot of different technologies. And so with that, I've kind of looked at how can we take ERP cloud technologies and use those, move those transactions or that data that needs to be tracked and immutable, how do we put that into a blockchain solution? And so that's kind of one of the things that drove me into this space. Okay, so has anybody in here already gotten like a blockchain cert from maybe Udemy or for Princeton or anybody like that, MIT? No? So when you look at some of these certifications, what I found is that a lot of the certification programs that are in the blockchain space currently are really just teaching you baseline certification information or baseline information about the actual the technology, but they're not really getting you anything that's a valuable tool that's going to allow you to actually start doing anything. It's really just kind of a base level of information, and they're charging an exorbitant amount of dollars for this, $3,000 for a certification course. And so our goal is to move away from that and to create an entry point for anybody to be able to afford, and then to be able to get a tool set to be able to use to start building things. And so hopefully we can kind of impress that on everybody. All right, let's move on. So how are we going to do this? Well, what we have right now with the Dragonchain Academy is we've created what we call the Academy Pilot Program. And in this Academy Pilot Program, we have a set of users from a diverse background of about 40 users who are all going in and working within our platform from an experienced developer all the way to an entry-level user. And we're trying to figure out where are they having pain points, and then we're writing course material to get through those pain points. And so when we look at this entry-level material, what this material is, and this is what you guys are going to be going through tomorrow, is we're going to show you how to get into the Dragonchain platform, provision a node, create a currency, create what we call a watcher contract, where you're watching for things happening on other chains, okay? So whether it be Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you can watch for things happening and then write it back to your Dragonchain, okay? Then we're also going to do another interchain functionality tomorrow. We're going to show you how to do what we call a publisher contract. And so we're going to show you how to take information that's in your Dragonchain and then write it out to a public network, right? So we're going to show you kind of how to do that as well. So in essence, we're going to walk you through the delivered smart contracts that we have available tomorrow. And then the last smart contract that we're going to talk about tomorrow is we're going to take a look at what we call a custom smart contract. And in essence, what that's going to do is, if you're familiar with Dragonchain, it's going to give you the ability to write your contract really in any programming language you want, as long as it runs in one of our runtime environments. And we'll show you all the runtime environments that we have available. And so that includes Python, VB, whatever you want to use. So we'll show you how that works. All right, so as I mentioned before, our pilot users are from a very diverse background. So I actually even have one person that has their daughter who's in junior high, I think, is one of our users. So it's very, very cool to kind of bring somebody from zero all the way through to a hero, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So our expected results is by the time we finish this pilot program. So what we're doing right now is we don't even have anything publicly available from the Academy. What you guys are seeing is all beta information. It's not available. Tomorrow, I will be providing each of you with links to our self-study material for all of that stuff that we just talked about. I have courses for self-study for publisher, watcher, currency, and provisioning. And so you'll have access to those, and I'll keep that access open so that everybody here can use that self-study. And so I'll give that link out tomorrow whenever we do our session. But our expected results is to create an entry-level certification that says you know Dragonchain. That's it. That's all I'm worried about, is that you know our platform. And then we're going to jump off of that. So you're going to have a Dragonchain practitioner, you're going to have a Dragonchain developer, you're going to have a Dragonchain architect, and those individuals are going to get certified through this program. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. So what are some of the hurdles that we see that we're running into in the space today? So when we think about blockchain in general, it's hard for a university to be on a bleeding edge as far as teaching technology, because the technology is just too quick for it to get through the certification or get through the approval process that it takes in order for the university to put that in part of their course plan. So how do we get past that, right? So our thought is that if we can allow the community of people that are already certified, that already know the information, to be the ones that are actually creating the information and being incentivized for creating the information, then we can allow them to want to participate in generating the correct information and basically self-correcting the material that we're creating. So I'm not sure if anybody has seen the product called Dragon Den that we are releasing today. But this product, in essence, allows multiple people to collaborate on one particular product and work together to create a document, and then grade that document and rate that document. Okay, and so as an example, if we all wanted to work on a course, we could all work together, and I could say, okay, Dan wrote the best paragraph for this. We voted up. That's the paragraph that we're going to use. So our concept is that we're going to actually use the tools that Dragonchain is providing to you to actually build our Academy material. And so we're incentivizing our pilot users in order to help us with that. So I think it's kind of a cool process. So, all right, so what are some of the problems, again, when we think about blockchain hurdles? Well, outsiders really don't fully understand what the technology is and why it's important. That's probably one of the biggest hurdles. So how can we go in and educate businesses on what it is that they're currently doing and how do they find a solution in blockchain? Has anybody heard of the FITS model? Has anybody heard of the FITS model? So the FITS model is basically this. You ask them, do you have fraud? Do you have intermediaries? Do you need transparency in your transactions? And do you need more security and scalability? That's FITS, right? And if you need those things, then those are things that you might need a blockchain solution. So there's the things you might want to start looking at, right? And so when we look at these things, how can we create these little mnemonics, right? Like think like FITS, right? And so how can we do that in order to better educate people so that they want to come in and learn this technology? Because ultimately, individuals aren't really going to push this up. It's going to be people making big investments and creating real-world solutions that fix something that they have a problem with. So A lot of times when we hear about blockchain technology, and this really bothers me a lot when I talk to newbies, is they just think it's Bitcoin, right? And so we all know that blockchain transcends Bitcoin, and so that's what we want to kind of look to. And so again, the technology transcends the currency, and the education is the biggest stumbling block, and we need to try to make education so that it's not going to make someone despondent to what they're learning. Let me explain. Normally, when we think about education, traditionally, it's about memorization of facts. And that's it, right? And we have to sit in these neat little rows and listen to some individual that may or may not be passionate about the information that you're trying to convey. But in essence, the traditional model of how we ingest information and learn probably needs to be fundamentally changed. And so what kinds of methods, what kinds of gamification can we put in place? What kinds of things can we do that will engage the individual? So we're going to talk about a thing called the Piaget method a little bit later, and I'll show you kind of how that works. So again, it's limited points of entry for accurate education, and so how do we actually make the education accurate? We're going to try to use some of the tools that we had talked about in order to push that up. So with education, one of some of the problems that we have, again, we're slow to market, like we had mentioned before with the universities. They have the ability to equip you with quality and accurate information, and it should not be cost restrictive. A 4-year education at a good accredited school, how much does that cost today, right? And so it's kind of cost restrictive for an individual from an impoverished environment to even just get a college education. So how can we provide education in a blockchain environment that incentivizes an individual to basically just put in effort, right? And so that's what we're hoping for. So no one learns anything if they're bored and unengaged. So one of the things that we strive to do is if you hear something, usually you forget it. If you see something, you remember it. And if you do something, you understand it. And so we want to try to create an approach that will do all three of those, right? So we want to create a system that will show you something, then we will let you do it, and then we're going to review it. So it's called the Piaget method, but define, show, do, review. And that's how we're going to do every subject matter that we do. Okay, and so that in essence should hit everyone so that the information that they're learning will stick. And so that's our ultimate goal. And so let's see here. A good education is comprehensive knowledge. It should be available to those who seek it. And that's truly what I believe. If someone is impoverished and they're in Afghanistan right now and they have no access to even get money to pay for a course, how are they going to learn this? So that if they do have to immigrate and they do have to find a new career, can they get involved in this? Or is it only limited to those that can afford that $3,000 MIT course? I don't think so. And I don't think that's right. So hopefully we can fix this solution. All right, so certification problems. When you think about traditional certification, I mentioned earlier that I have a lot of certifications. I'm a CCNE, or CCNP, a CCIE, MCSE, A+, N+, Network Plus, all that stuff. And when I look back at those certifications, a lot of those certifications, all I did was get online, look at a bunch of test questions, memorize them, and go take the test. There's not a lot of education involved there, and there's not a lot of knowledge transfers. So we need to figure out how do we fix that, right? And so how can we ensure that the individual has actually obtained the knowledge that they are saying that they have? And so we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. And so we also have testing issues, right? And so testing issues, obviously, in order to update the test with new information, how does that get done, and how does it get done quickly? So I think we can fix that with a blockchain solution. So, and then probably what has driven me the most to be a part of this particular project is traditionally when I think about training and the classes that I've taught over the years, it's all profit driven. Thousands and thousands of dollars people are paying to sit in a class that takes 5 days, when the reality is they could probably learn that information on their own if we give them the right material and the right tools. And that's what we hope to do, is create self-study tools that will guide you through the steps so you can do it on your own. So we can scale and lower the cost. So it's pretty much eliminated. And that's what we try to do here. So let's take a look at this on what our approach is going to look like. So basically we have kind of a 5-pronged approach at the Dragonchain Academy. We want to create affordable lessons that are going to incentivize certification. So what does that mean? Well, much like when you went to college, you would take 100, 200, 300, 400 level courses. we are going to have the same types of certifications, 100, 200, 300, 400 level certifications. Those entry-level certifications will require almost no financial burden on the individual. So that's why you will be able to get into this certification program without putting any money in, okay? So now that you have proven to us that you have acquired the skill set, then what we're going to do is we are going to reward you back for passing your certification exam. So let me tell you what that means. If an individual comes in and takes our very first course, yes, go ahead.
So you guys both create content and then you run credentials, right?
Yes, exactly.
Do you also work with like other universities?
We want to, and one of the things, one of our core goals is that we want to complement and not compete. So if anybody wants to work with us on this, we want to work with them too. We're not in a business of trying to outdo, MIT, for instance. If they want to do this with us and they think this is a good solution for them, we certainly want to work with them. And also like the Blockchain Training Alliance and some of the other people, I'm good friends with a lot of those guys. And so I'm hoping that what we can do is we can give this same kind of incentive to their graduates so that we can maybe bring them into our platform. So hopefully, I'm not sure how that'll work, but we'll figure that out. But good question. Okay, so when we think about the cost of the materials and how do we set the price point so that it's available for all humans, what we're going to have is we're going to have kind of a zero-level course that just gives you the introduction to like a blockchain basics. And then when you pass that, you're going to get rewarded. So let's say, for instance, you get rewarded 10 dragons. Well, your next test might cost you, or will cost you 10 or less dragons. So in essence, you've already earned what it's going to cost to get your certification. Does that make sense? And so if you are looking at one of our higher level certifications, so we'll talk about those in a little bit in just a second, but let's think about entry level certifications. Those are just going to require that you take the test and pass. But what about a higher level certification? If you think back to the CCIE certification, I don't know if anybody knows about that certification, but it was a very difficult certification, probably one of the most tough ones that I've ever had. And that particular certification not only required that you took a test, but it also required that you kind of had a lab, so a minimal viable product, or maybe a white paper for an architect, a minimal viable product for a developer, and then you actually sat down and spoke with an individual that already had that certification. That's how I want to do it with this. So when we think about our 400 level certifications, they're going to require that you provide us with a minimal viable product as a developer. They're going to require that you write a white paper as an architect. Well, if you're already at that level and you're writing a white paper for your solution, you're probably then going to need other people to help you. We also have what's called a marketplace. That marketplace is a place for you to find human resources, whether it be other developers. It's also a place for you to find legal help. It's a place for you to find people to help you with tokenization. Anything that you need to build a Dragonchain solution, we have it in the marketplace. So in essence, what the Academy is doing is it's feeding human resources into our marketplace without anyone having to make an investment. It's amazing, right? Okay, so it's a cognitive approach to knowledge. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the define, show, do, review. This isn't something that I invented. It's actually a gentleman that died, I think, in 1980, named Jean Piaget. And Jean Piaget created a thing called method of structured learning for cognitive learning for adults. And I've been teaching this way since I was in the Marine Corps. I taught Marines how to put on a gas mask using this approach. So I'm pretty sure that I can teach developers how to do it as well. I've taught people how to set up a Cisco router using this approach. I've taught people how to set up a PeopleSoft workflow using this approach. So that's the approach we use. Define. Remember, if I hear it, I forget it. That's what we're doing. We're defining it. Show. You see it. If I see it, I remember it. Do. If I do it, I understand it. And then we're going to review it with you, right? And so if we use that approach with every subject that we go into, we will absolutely kill it as far as getting the knowledge transferred to the individual. And we don't have to set in a neat little row like this. We can do this whenever we want because we're going to give you self-learning material. Will we still do this for individuals, for corporate clients? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you want us to come and take a class like this, you want us to come in and do a class for you, we can still do that. We can still do an online class. But I think the self-learning material is where we're headed. And if you look at Udemy and you look at lynda.com and some of the popularity there, I think that's where we're all headed. And so we're just trying to take a head start on that approach. All right, community-driven. For those of that are in the pilot program, probably can recognize this, but our community is where we look to get test questions. It's where we look to validate that our material is good and well written. It's where we're looking to get additional information and help from our academy pilot users. So in essence, the community is going to provide the value, and then they will reiterate that value, I suppose. And so, again, the community, once someone receives a certification, one of the cool things about receiving your certification is you will then get entry into what we call a layer for Dragon Den. And that Dragon Den layer is, in essence, a community of everyone else that has that same certification that you can then ask questions and collaborate with. And you could also work on course material and get additional earnings through the Dragonchain platform. So really, what we're doing is we're trying to create an atmosphere that's going to allow you to learn the material, and then once you've proven that you've learned the material, you can then start earning within our platform. And so that's what we're trying to, that's our kind of our goal. So what are our multiple delivery methods? I kind of mentioned this already. We're going to do online self-paced learning. That's probably going to be the most popular. We still will do traditional methods for in-person, private, and public delivery models. And then we'll also have a mentoring program where we can actually come in and work with you on your project for a week or two and kind of get you started. When I think about quality education and certification, I've said this many times already with you guys, and I really want to stress this. The best training that I've ever had in my whole life, I didn't pay for, right? It was all about the effort that I put in. And so I hope to create that same environment for the people here, okay? So one of the other things, too, is everything that we build is industry standard learning management system. We conform to what's called the SCORM and Tin Can API standards, which is the standards for learning management systems. So anything that we create, for instance, if we create a blockchain basics for real estate and you want to plug that in and have all of your real estate agents actually learn basics of blockchain, we can do that for you, right? And so we can just plug that in, and then you can just require that they do that and plug that right into your learning management system. So that's one of the other products that we'll provide as the Academy. So we will have to be somewhat profitable, and that's probably how we can get some profit back. So hopefully we can do it that way. Any questions so far about this approach? Cool. All right, so what would a student look like? So what would this concept look like? So if you're a new student, you could start from zero, or maybe you're already a developer and you just need to go ahead and just take the exams and get your credits and start developing. That's fine too. But we're going to take the approach that somebody's going to start from zero. So there they are, new student. They can start wherever they want, but if you start from zero, we're going to teach you the basics of blockchain, right? And then after you learn the basics of blockchain, then you're going to learn how Dragonchain does an implementation of that. After you learn about the Dragonchain implementation, then you're going to be able to certify on the knowledge that you've obtained, and then you're going to get paid back for that certification, right? And so how are you going to get paid back for that certification? Again, the reward exceeds the cost for taking the exam, and so that's how you get paid back. So my model, and I haven't gotten this approved yet, but my goal is to do, based on certification, if it's a level 4 certification or 400 level certification, which would be like a certified Dragonchain architect or developer, you're going to get 4 times your investment. So if you invest 100 Dragonchain to take the exam, you're going to get 400 back, as long as you passed. If you didn't pass the first time, then you just lost some of your profits, right? So one of the questions that we always get about these rewards is, can I just go take those out into the market and sell them? No, that's not what we're trying to do. So we're not trying to just, get people to make profits off of taking tests. That's not what our goal is. Your tokens that you get within our platform will be locked so that you can only use them within the platform. So you won't be able to sell them out on the exchange. But you will be able to use them within the platform to either get more education, to buy smart contracts, to spin up nodes, whatever it is that you need to do. Okay? Any questions about that? All right. So this is kind of what I was mentioning about what is the student going to look like. Yeah?
So the commodity is education, the currency is your token.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah?
If the reward's exceeding the cost, then where are the tokens for the reward coming from?
That's a good question. So if the reward exceeds the cost, then the tokens are coming from the Dragonchain Foundation, and we're nonprofit. Okay. And so that's our goal is to drive adoption, and that's it. And so hopefully we'll pick that up somewhere else.
Okay. you have like a timeline for how long that's sustainable for?
We're supposed to release this on November 31st for our initial pilot, and then we'll probably be able to give you better metrics then.
Okay, thank you.
Or November 30th, I guess there's not 31st, right? All right, so when we think about this process, before I get into this, what I want to explain is what are you actually going to be learning? Well, you know you're going to learn the platform, and you know you're going to learn how to develop on the platform. But how are you going to learn that? You're actually going to learn an application that is tracking what you're doing. So the application that we're building is an application that's going to track your certifications. Now, when you think about traditional certifications, you think, well, that's just a destination, and once I'm there, I'm done, and now I can do whatever I want to do. Well, we want this to be more of an entry point. So when you get your certification, now you have access to a lot of tools and a lot of resources that you can start using to build out solutions. But in addition to that, the application that you just learned while you were getting your certification is going to be an application that's tracking certifications. Not only am I going to track your certification, but I also want to track what I consider your brand and your reputation. So what is brand and what is reputation? Well, brand is going to be how good is your work, right? So if you're writing smart contracts, how well documented is your smart contracts? Does it have any flaws? Has it been checked and verified? That type of thing. That's going to be your brand. So your brand is tied directly to your product. Your reputation is tied to your work ethic, right? So when you think about reputation, just because you can build something perfect doesn't mean you're fun to work with, right? So we want to kind of track both of those items so that we can ensure that we, in essence, allow a person to build this out so we can see, hey, who do we want to work with? Who's a good person for this fit, right? Because remember, once a person gets certified, now they're going to be a resource in the marketplace to start earning. And so that's what we see here. So certification is the entry point, or the learning is the entry point to the certification. And then once you've once you've achieved that certification, now you have the ability to earn within our platform. So you can either earn by writing smart contracts and making those available into the marketplace. You could earn by being a public, a resource in the marketplace for another a project that's already there looking for a developer or an architect or a token modeler or whatever it is that you've certified in. Pretty cool, right? And then, now teams come together and build solutions, whether it be the solution that you've architected, maybe you're joining another team, but in essence, what we're trying to do is provide the resources that are going to be required to meet the demands of the marketplace. So when we look at the marketplace, this is kind of how this all ties together. The marketplace is in essence going to be the jump-off point for the academy users, right? So now they've gotten entry, they came into the academy, they've got their skills and certification and knowledge, and now they can come into the marketplace and be a resource from the academy to any projects that are out there. It also jumps off applications from the academy, so many times when students come into the academy, they already have a preconceived notion on how they want to implement blockchain and what kind of solution they want to build. My wife is a dental assistant, and she is adamant about this being in dental, but she's not a developer, so we got a lot of work to do. But in essence, what I'm saying is that, then she could maybe start building out a white paper, start finding people that have the same solution and start making this work. Just start chipping away, right? One step at a time. So again, what we want to do is we want to give you the tools that you need in order to build within our platform. We want to give you a project that you can see from beginning to end that's tracking your certification so that then you can make an analogy for whatever it is that you want to build. What else could we put in that? Like if you want to create a project that's going to track certifications for people in the medical industry or licensing or whatever, right? So it should map well to those types of applications. All right, so what are the certifications that we're going to provide? There's going to be basically two types of certifications. We're going to have general blockchain certifications, which is going to be across the board generic, and then we're going to have certifications that are specific to the Dragonchain platform. They're going to be the blockchain certified practitioner, and that's going to have focus on certain industries. I put focus on healthcare, but we're going to have silos for that. So depending on which type of industry you're going to be working in, that's going to be where you're going to want to have your focus, right? So depending on that industry, so we're going to look at healthcare, higher ed, finance, some of those industries first, and then work our way down. Then we're going to look at just basically business fundamentals and then a token modeling certification. For the Dragonchain certifications, we're going to have the Dragonchain certified practitioner. I need to change that. And then the Dragonchain developer and architect. A practitioner is just someone that can actually work within our platform, run nodes, basically kind of like a miner in a normal environment. They understand how to use our platform and how to interact with the platform. But they're not building smart contracts. They're not really trying to build a solution. They're just trying to be, a resource in our validation nodes. But that's fine. A developer is going to be someone that's going to be able to create a solution, and then that developer is then going to have a 400 level certification where when they do create their solution, they're going to sit down with an architect and go through that solution and talk it out with the person that created it. So we will, in essence, start you out building your project, right, and help you along the way. And then, of course, the architect is basically, in essence, going to be building out the white paper. Right? So the architect is going to have to build out all your planning documents that you need in order to build your blockchain solution. Your developer then is going to take those planning documents and start creating the product. Pretty simple, right? Cool. So what are some of the courses that we've built now already, and what do we have coming? We have a blockchain basics course, which in essence just talks about the generalities of exchanging value through an unsecure media going into a trustless environment, talking about permissions versus permissionless, private, public, that kind of stuff, right? Byzantine general, we heard of a lot of these things this morning. And then we have blockchain for business. This is where we're going to focus on specific business cases, and there'll be a lot of different flavors to that. And so depending on the specific business use cases, those will drive the adoption for those classes. And then introduction to smart contracts. That's just going to talk about kind of the Nick Szabo general look at smart contracts and how smart contracts work. Then when we look at the Dragonchain platform, we're going to actually be looking at the Dragonchain architecture. We're going to be doing that tomorrow. We'll be doing that class first thing tomorrow morning. So I'm going to walk you through really how Dragonchain nodes work. How do we go from a trusted environment at level 1 to a trustless environment at level 5? And so we're going to talk about how that works. And then we'll also talk about how our payload and header and kind of how the transactions actually occur. Then we're going to go into some smart contracts tomorrow. We're going to show you how to create currencies. We're going to show you how to create nodes. We'll show you how to interact with those nodes using the API. Again, I talked about all that earlier. And that's another class that we have. And so that's what we'll be doing tomorrow, is both of those. Then we have the Dragonchain token modeling. I will say that there's a lot missing on this course. We're still developing that one out. But in essence, what that course is going to do is figure out where there's value in your environment and how you can assign value through a token. Right? And so how can you create a token model for whatever value you need to track within your environment? Okay? And so with that, just to kind of expand on that a little bit, I kind of mentioned earlier that I came from a PeopleSoft environment. So in a PeopleSoft environment, it's all just internal, right? But how could you apply a token model just to track transactions to find where you have waste, right? Just to find waste in the system. The tokens don't actually have any value, but you're tracking waste, right? And so that's kind of one of the things that I think a lot of people are missing, and they're not actually looking at that as a solution. And then provisioning a Dragonchain, that's pretty obvious, just showing you how to manage Dragonchain's system. Talk about the interchain functionalities. We also have the DDSS, and if you're not familiar with that functionality, in essence what it is we at Dragonchain want to incentivize individuals not to buy and sell our token, right? We want them to buy it, hold it, and you wait until they're ready to sell it when it's more of a long-term solution, not a short-term buy-sell. So when you buy the Dragonchain token, the longer you hold it, you get what we call the Dragon Days of Slumber score, or DDSS. And in essence, that's for every token, I think it's for every token that you have times every day that you have, you get like 100 DDSS. So do the math, it's pretty easy. So in essence, what that does is gives you discounts on various items within the platform, gets you access to discounts to things like Blockchain Seattle, things like that. So in essence, there's a lot of incentives for the DDSS program. Modeling a Dragonchain solution, this is going to be for architects, so that they can kind of draw out what would like a voting solution look like on Dragonchain, what would whatever it is that they're trying to build. And then developing the Dragonchain solution, this is going to be more of the higher level development course where we're going to talk about specific smart contracts, and then we're also going to have flavors for this so that we have it for Python, for Node, for all the different flavors that we support. Analytics, we also will have an analytics system that will allow you to look at the analytics for the Dragonchains that you've set up so that you can see, okay, how many contracts have I validated, for instance, if you're a validation node, how many transactions have went through the smart contracts that I've created, whatever it is that you want to have analytics on. We can go ahead and do some analytics and reporting on your contracts. And then lastly is how do you integrate a Dragonchain solution into your existing product, right? So a good example would be if I'm looking at an accounting solution and I know that there's something in my accounting solution that I absolutely have to ensure that we adhere to these requirements, then I could just put that into a smart contract and then ensure that the accounting requirements hit that smart contract and auto-execute, right? And so then we could start tracking that information. And so hopefully that is what we're going to kind of convey in that course. And so that's kind of our goal, and that's our initial course study, which will then tie back to those certifications that we just talked about. So what are our delivery methods? I kind of mentioned this before, but I want to kind of show you where we're going. Again, we got public, private, online, and self-study. That's what we have today. But when we think about Academy 2.0, we want to kind of move away from this look of sitting down, heads down, reading a paragraph, and that's how I learn. What if I could take something and do some gamification with this, right? So has anybody played Crypto Zombies? Nobody? Okay, I encourage you to play Crypto Zombies because it'll help you learn Solidity. But when you go out and look at this program, in essence, it's requiring that you write code as you're interacting as a zombie going through and building your zombie, right? Well, there's another game that my wife plays called Dragon Veil, and it's a little dragon. I don't know if anybody's played it, but you kind of develop your dragons. So my thought was, well, maybe we could do something like that, right? And so that's kind of our goal is, as we develop this out, maybe we can create a better system so that people could start learning by doing more of an interactive, right? Because remember, if you do it, you remember it, or you understand it, right? So that's what we're hoping for. And then, again, the direction of the Academy, where are we going from here? So how would you like to see change in immutable data and transactions? When we think about this from the Academy standpoint, we want to give you a viable solution that you're going to learn and then give you everything that you need in order to start building whatever solution that you need, right? And so our goal is to be a jump-off point for blockchain solutions, period. And so everybody says that the problem with blockchain is education. So how can we better create an education platform so that it's more open source? I started this lecture saying we want to take open source to education, and I think this is the way to do it. I really do. So can we be a good place to make the difference? What if this does catch? What if it does catch traction? Could this go into another technology or another industry? Could we do this with other types of education? Does it have to be blockchain education? I don't know. Could we actually disrupt education with a solution like this? I don't know. But I'm definitely willing to try. So anyway, education shouldn't be limited to those who can afford it. Six-figure income should not be the prerequisite to acquiring knowledge. We've all heard knowledge is power. I'll take that one step further. Applied knowledge is freedom, right? So once you learn something and if you can apply it, you have freedom in your life. And that's what we hope to do, is empower you to have that. So, cool. So I'll go ahead and kind of close this out with some mnemonics. All humans are welcome with Dragonchain. I give you the FITS mnemonic already. Another kind of fun thing that you've probably seen with Dragonchain is we say blockchain business magic, right? Well, I want to use for the logo for the Academy, no magic, just logic. So hopefully you guys like that. And then another mnemonic is when we think about the characteristics of a blockchain solution. Well, let's think about that for a second. We want something to be decentralized. We want it to be immutable. We want it to be cryptographic data. We want it to be autonomous, and anonymous, and we want it to be transparent, right? So DICAT. How do I remember that? Well, dragons inherently care about transactions. Cool, right? Yeah. So those are some of the fun things that we want to do with education, and that's just some examples. But in essence, I want people to walk away retaining the information and not just, just being a student setting trying to memorize something. Okay? Questions? Did you guys like this? Was it cool? All right. Cool. Awesome. I'll be around all day today, and then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow demoing the platform. So look forward to seeing you guys then. Yeah.
ID we need for tomorrow?
For tomorrow, no. You do not need an ID. Actually, I hope everybody comes. Honestly, I should be prepared for 80 people. So if I can get 80 people in here, I will make my developers very happy. So. Oh, I'm sorry. So no. With our environment, tomorrow I'll show you, but we have runtime environments that basically map to AWS Lambdas. So if you can write to an AWS Lambda, then you can write a smart contract that will run in our runtime environment. I'll show you that tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. 9 to 11:50, I think, is what time I'm in here. Yeah. Other questions? Cool. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the conference.